But thank you for asking.
Not on your brain, though.
I know. That doesn't work regardless, so.
I'm just gonna run through this right quick.
How are you?
Good.
So how this is
friends have
broken up
fun?
is it's by department. And I assigned an ID
Yeah, that's
number
what she had said. That
to
he-
each of these items. So
Is
every
one of the
ID,
stage
every
house.
item has a unique ID, so water's
So
gonna be.
water would be W something on this list. Okay.
Right, so that way it's all broken down on
last
here,
tour.
on all the grading
So you
sheets.
got a correlation, okay, good, yeah.
So that's just easier to go back and
Yep.
forth.
Okay.
And these are, don't worry about that, it was just, that's, we can assign whoever's grade there, whoever wants to
Barrington,
vote,
Vermont.
that is.
And I was sending
So
them
then
to 93.
I can just get these same packets back at the end of
Well,
it.
this, so this would be what
That
they,
way you're gonna be heading-
what the
you're gonna be
members
heading
would
west.
turn in.
Right.
This sheet
Heading
in.
Yep.
Vermont.
Okay.
So just
So
everybody
is
turn that in.
everybody's got a different?
No, they're all the same.
It's a completely different
But
way.
we'll sign, I got
We
you.
can assign it afterwards. Then I
So
can
it's
tally them all
instead
up
of
and
the
print them all
104
out.
diner.
Now, would this be online so they can?
Yeah.
Then
Okay,
I sent her
good.
to, kitchen gradings.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, we had a great day on the lake. We took them out. I kept my boat separate. There's water in it now.
They are finishing up.
Now I gotta make sure I get it out myself for one last day.
All by yourself? Oh, is it, you got a trailer? Just kind of-
Plus, we're at the marina.
Oh, that's what you
Put
work
boats in
there.
and out all
You
the
work
time.
there. You got,
Happens a million times a day.
you got special connections, right?
Yeah.
Afternoon, I was going through a whole bunch of things, going, there's gotta be a better way, so.
So. Hi.
Hello.
I didn't think you were supposed to be here.
How are you?
Oh, okay.
What's that?
I didn't think he was supposed to be here, the big guy.
He's the boss. He goes
He's
where he
getting double
wants.
time
Okay,
tonight.
that's what he will.
Getting
Don't
double
let him
time.
know.
Yes, sir.
Someone there?
Not yet.
So,
I gotta get out and get my water bottle.
who might not be here right now?
We have not heard from anyone that they are not coming. Edwin is not here.
Yeah, he came,
Downstairs.
he's sick, he said,
Okay.
he said, I'm not gonna, I don't, he doesn't wanna give it to us, so he came, if we needed him, he would've stayed, but
Okay.
that's
Okay.
him.
All right, I came and I'm going to leave, but I will be right back.
Just yeah,
Yeah, I got you. And who else would be missing?
Jay.
Oh, yeah, Jay. That's the second,
Yes.
Okay.
So you came. Okay.
What happened?
Whatever.
It'll be good.
We're good.
No issues.
No issues.
but he didn't call or anything like that.
We did not hear anything from him.
It all works out.
That's which we can always.
I don't wanna give my opinion.
We don't need it. We just
You
need to
already know.
decide if you want to move forward.
Yes, and those are the only two, right?
I believe so. Unless Henry's coming, but I don't think so.
I think so.
Henry Lippman?
Yeah.
He left.
Okay.
We saw him walk out the door, or walk down the stairs.
So Henry's probably not coming. So I think this is it.
The decorative type? Okay.
Henry's probably not coming, so I think this is it.
What happened?
There's one on the
Henry who?
west, the whole head's.
The counselor?
Yeah.
Oh, he's on this too?
Well, there's 3 city
I just
council
noticed that
members,
last night.
and they're supposed to be the finance committee.
Oh,
which
he
is-
signed up for this? I didn't know
Well,
that.
well, so the finance committee is invited,
Yeah, I'll swing
so
by on
it's
the way out.
Bob,
Okay.
Henry, and
But the head,
Brenda.
the light head on.
Brenda's not
on
interested, so
Beacon,
Ava's been doing it for
west
years.
side of the bridge
Ava's
is
been
in
doing it
there.
for longer.
Yeah.
But they're all the decorative.
I know.
Okay.
I was here with, I was telling Bob with Amanda
Thank you,
Simpson.
Wes.
Who?
With Amanda
Yeah.
Simpson.
Oh, wow, that goes back, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think from the second year that he was.
Boy, I don't know when's the last, I haven't heard that name for like God sent.
And Dawn replaced Amanda.
Hi, Michael.
Greetings, how are you doing?
Good, you?
Very well, sir.
Are you sure?
Well, I guess we'll call the meeting to order. Sorry for the, coming out by a half hour or so, but there was other meetings, it was for much of a conflict. You want to take roll call?
Paul Lambert, David Doyle, Mike Foot,
Here.
Bill Contardo,
Yep.
and Bob Hamill,
Here?
with the following not present: Edwin Bonez, Jay Tivnan,
I think he's
Okay.
here. Right?
That's Dean, the director. He's coming right back.
Oh, okay.
And we have a staff that's in attendance.
Dean Trefethan in attendance and Brandy Laughlin.
Correct,
And-
okay.
and I'm-
And do we have a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting? Anybody,
So moved.
a second on that?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Good minutes.
that's fast, we're moving fast. Okay. So on the, what we have tonight, this evening, is we have, let me just stop for a moment, everybody get the new forms and it's all laid out for you? Okay, any, I'll just pause for a moment on that, does it need any discussion, or is it well understood at this moment? If not, I guess the staff can brief you after the meeting.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions as you go in to put the scores in, just give us a call and we can talk you through it.
Thank you.
Or come on in, whatever, it's easier.
So we have the water department, we have the police department, and we have DPW. So we, on the agenda, as it's listed here, is the water department. So will the water department come up, please?
Just for the record, Seth Nuttleman here to represent the water department. Good evening.
Good evening.
You'll have in front of you the same spreadsheets that I'm looking at, and you'll see that the water department basically is breaking down its items into W1 through 14, which is our proposed street work to do as far as relaying water mains, and then W15 through 33 are the miscellaneous capital purchases. I'll start off first with W1 and take a look at this. This is Merrimack Street. It's a street that we're proposing to do. That street's been on the docket for a while, and we are doing that in conjunction with the Public Works Department because we have not only some old pipe, you can see there, 1984, but we also have on the far end, close to Emerald Drive, we've had some history of breaks in that particular area. So our plan is to replace that water main prior to the road being reconstructed.
Is that the total cost, or is the DPW getting in with you on that?
That is total water cost. That has nothing to do with drainage, sewer. That is just water department cost for the replacement. of the main.
Excavating, is that, yeah, and then,
Excavating, installing the new pipe.
okay. And how you dovetailing with the DPW? How's that all choreographed, I guess? That's,
It all depends upon the street and who initiates it.
okay,
If the Public Works Department initiates it, then generally they cover the cost of the asphalt.
okay,
If the Water Department initiates it, then we have a cost breakdown
okay.
because we share in the cost of the reclaim, the asphalt, and then the DPW shares as well, and then ends up with a new street.
So how do we know this is, you are initiating it? How would I know by looking at this form? How would I know that? No, so I don't have to look DPW, whatever it is. So you're initiating it all, so you're taking the burden of the 160 totally?
Correct.
Okay. How would I know that by looking at the form? Anything tells me that?
Every number that you see here will be the number that the Water Department will be expending.
Okay, you're initiating the project?
Yep.
Is it in your terms? Okay, thank you.
Union Avenue is the next one. That's another one that we're doing in conjunction with the Public Works Department. That's on the docket for probably construction in 2019. However, we are funding it partially in 2018-19 in the fall, carrying those numbers over so that we have the full 600,000, 300, and 300 available to us for the spring so that we can go in and do the entire street. The plan is to do the road, and by entire street, it's Union Avenue from Main Street to Guilford Ave. However, the Water Department only needs to go a little past the intersection of Winter. So we'll be doing the majority of what is going to be done by Public Works.
Is that pretty old pipe down in there, Seth?
It is. It's the section back by summer and spring is early 60s with some history of breakage. And then if you go all the way to the intersection by Main Street, we've got some stuff in there in the late 1800s.
1800s.
1800s, yeah. Sorry, 1915.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, it's probably wooden then.
Another one that's on the docket for 1920 is Franklin Street. That's another one we're doing in conjunction with Public Works. We've been working hand in hand here for quite a few years to try to get the biggest bang we can for our buck and make sure that when a street's redone, everything's taken care of underground and before the new asphalt goes down. So these have all been laid out between Wes and I as far as what we can do, what he can do, things along those lines.
Go back to Union Ave real quick.
Sure.
Just your project is a $600,000 project?
Correct. Correct. Just to give you an idea, the work that we did on Lakeside Avenue, just that water portion, was about $450,000. And the piece that we just finished on North Main Street, that was approximately $475,000.
Seth, what's, you got three, say on the Union Ave one, you got 330 feet and 1915. Is that a range of distance?
That's the year.
3,030 is the footage.
Yeah.
And 1915 is the age of the pipe.
I see, okay.
And those are just some notes I've made on the side there as descriptions. Any other questions on Union? All right, so again, Franklin Street, 1,450 feet of pipe, 1927. So we're looking at doing that in the 1920 fiscal year. As we get farther out in the number of years that we're looking at, these streets get moved around a little bit. All depends upon funding with Public Works and what their situation is. And I understand that they're having a road evaluation study being performed. And I think that's probably going to shine some light on where they're going to be going over the next 5 years. And we'll have to follow suit depending upon what we have for work in that area. Morningside Drive, you'll see that that one's only 1956, but that happens to be 2-inch iron pipe. Iron pipe is a problem. Over years, it breaks down a lot quicker than cast iron, ductile iron, or anything else. So that's the reason that that's so far along on the docket. Woodland and Butler, another situation there, 1915, 1918, a couple of potential problems in that particular area. Peachy Street and Messer Street for $100,000 in 2021. That is something that I've got to sit down and talk to Wes about. Of course, we're a couple of years out. That's basically a pipe that we know we have some restriction in. We've tested our fire flows around the around the school, and we're fine, but we do know that there's a restriction in that particular run of pipe. And then Orchard Street, another one that's set up for 2021 for $78,000. I can, by the time we get here, we're now getting into 21, 22 when we hit Wentworth Ave. So these streets are streets that we've put out there for a couple of different reasons. History of breaks, flow restrictions, or the type of pipe, and we're concerned about having future problems. So we move those streets back after 2 or 3 years out, depending upon activity and what else takes place in road construction. So as you can see, we're going down through Summer Street, McGrath Street, Primrose South, Veterans Ave up in the Weirs, Round Bay Road. Round Bay Road, you'll see it's 1949, but again, that's another one that we have 2-inch iron on. And so we're concerned at how long that's going to stay with us without creating problems. You'll also,
Can I ask, you have, I looked at that, it's been a small project, the $30,000. Is that, why would you put that out so far? Why, just, what's your methodology of thinking? Why wouldn't it be in sooner, in
a
time?
couple of things. Number one, there's only so much money to work with.
Okay.
And so, yeah, $30,000 isn't a lot of money.
Right.
But when I look at the actual money that I can spend on capital upgrades for water main replacement, I've only got probably $400,000 or $500,000 I can do a year.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons. that I just don't run out there and do it right now.
But you won't anticipate having 600,000 like you have here at the beginning next year.
Right.
So it makes those numbers valid at the period of time that they're out at, right?
Yeah, the numbers that we've spent lately have been very strong for the water department. In other words, Lakeside, North Main, and then preparing for Union Avenue. We've been able to do that in monies that we have set aside over the course of time. Union Avenue may be something that we may have to look at bonding, only because of the size of the expense and the fact that there's only so much money available to go around. So I have two methods of creating income, raising rates or bonding and borrowing. Right now, it looks like we can maybe squeak by with that Union Avenue, but you can see that that's a big hit. If you go on to the second sheet, third sheet, excuse me, W15, that's where we start looking at what we're going to do as far as capital purchases separate from the street projects. We started a few years back, and it's worked quite well for us to set aside a certain dollar amount every year for pump upgrade and replacements. We have numerous pumps within the system, and pumps can vary anywhere from $5,000 to $75,000. So what we've done is budgeted a certain amount every single year. We carry that over if we don't have a pump failure problem, and then we're covered for a larger pump. A year and a half ago, we just had a Clearwell pump at the treatment plant go. That was a $75,000 pump. What we had done is we'd set aside enough money so that the bulk of that expense was already taken care of. I've done that also with, you'll see W16 gate upgrades and hydrant upgrades and the meter reading system upgrade.
So those are ongoing, you're doing it now and they're ongoing year to year. So we look at that as being, very favorable and improving that at a higher level, because it's already been, your work has been doing it, you've been doing your work, and it's an ongoing, keeps the project going, so to speak.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So those are all the ongoing, 15 to 18 are ongoing. That's, did I interpret that right? I guess so, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
19, the plant air conditioner. That air conditioning system is the original equipment from the plant when it went online back in the late 80s. We've had some problems with that, so we're looking at replacing that in the next coming budget cycle. Peristaltic pumps are chemical feed pumps that we use quite a few of in the system. What we do is we take, when we purchase new pumps, we put those into the treatment plant, which is basically our high-end use pumps. And then we take the older pumps from the treatment plant and we move those out to the booster stations, which may only run 4 to 5 hours a day as opposed to 10 to 15. So we have a system where we just rotate the pumps into the system.
So it's already been treated, filtered, whatever, at that point in time, the booster's like another belt and suspenders type of thing.
Correct, that's where
Okay.
we have to pump the water to a different elevation.
Right.
Exactly. Half-ton pickup truck, that is basically a treatment plant truck. It's just a two-wheel drive, I call them a runaround. That truck is actually a 2005 and it has 93,000 miles on it. And if we go on to the computer server, the IT people are telling me that we're pushing our luck with the age of the server that we use. That server operates basically everything within the department. We're also looking at running a fiber optic cable back to City Hall and possibly doing a shared server. So I've got the funds there to either do one or the other.
Okay. I
And
see.
we're still in the discussion stages as to what's going to work best overall. The loader, I broke the loader down over 2 years only because when I started doing my spreadsheets, I also lay out the numbers per year, per expense, and I just didn't have the funds available. That loader is a 2002. Three-quarter ton service truck. Again, this is all vehicle change-out according to schedules. That's a 2006. That's one of the primary vehicles that we use. That's all around town driving, and the service trucks see the most work. I can usually push a half-ton runaround truck much farther than I can a three-quarter ton service truck. The Weir's Pump Station, VFDs, that's for $30,000 in 1920. That there gives us the control. We've been installing variable frequency drive units on our pumps. Basically, the variable frequency drive gives us an opportunity to do what's called a slow start. So the pump just doesn't come on and come right up to speed. You can ramp it up and down, which helps pressure in the pipes in the system. And we're trying to feed off the main tank anywhere up to 4 or 5 different pressure zones. So we can actually, with variable frequency drives, we can be filling Briarcrest at 300 or 400 gallons a minute, and the Weir's at 300 or 400 gallons a minute, as opposed to not having the drives and having just a fixed rate that's gotta go out. So we use that to help us operate the overall.
So they can run concurrently, and you don't have to just go 600 gallons one way and stop, and then okay, I got you.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. They're also more energy efficient. Same thing with the VFD for the Clearwell pumps. Those are up at the treatment plant. And the security system, we're looking at adding to our SCADA system, greater security system around the treatment plant, around the base in that particular area. And you brought up a point earlier about some of these items that might want to move up. After I came up with the CIP, the board did talk to me about possibly moving up that security system work sooner than the 2021 that I've got it scheduled for.
Well, should we make a notation for it? Like, when would
I've
you
got to
want
get some serious hard numbers on that, and then I've got to go back and see if the board wants to take capital money from some other approved item and filter it towards this particular item.
So if you change that, you'll let Rob know, or, so, okay.
Definitely.
Thanks.
And then W28 is a half-ton pickup truck. That one is a 2008 with, currently it has 68,000 miles on it. And you can see that that one's gonna go. And we buy our vehicles generally in the spring, so when you see it in that particular fiscal year, it will get a whole, almost another year's service prior to being retired.
How old was the three-quarter ton, Seth?
The three-quarter ton was a 2006.
And the mileage on that one?
The mileage on that one, I don't have that written down. I've got it here somewhere.
I think you said 83 or 89.
I don't have that mileage with me.
That's fine.
So basically, that's what we're proposing. The real nitty-gritty comes down to obviously when we have to produce a budget for the council's review, because sometimes some of these items don't always make the list. We have to set priorities in regards to what funding's available in the capital line item.
So your priorities of what you're looking for up front
Correct.
towards the beginning, right?
And
So did you guys rebuild something there on your own, or what was that? We heard all the good words down there, your people did something, they,
Oh, I was talking about your filtration beds you
you
replaced.
did,
Oh,
you did
yeah,
all
we
work
did that.
yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, we did a 5-year program in which we went through and did a complete upgrade on the treatment plant. We did almost all the work in-house with our own forces. Obviously, sandblasting and coating of the tanks had to be contracted out, some of the electrical work. But all the pipe changes, all the valves, the rest of it, we all did in-house.
So as well, the learning process is well paid for, so to speak.
Yep,
Yeah.
we saved a lot of money, and at the same time, everybody in the department got a much more in-depth understanding of exactly what's going on in that building.
It was a great project, that's for sure,
Yep.
for many reasons. that's
Yep.
for sure.
We still do a lot of small stuff for ourselves. We roof small buildings, we side small buildings. Right now, we didn't do the work, but we're just, tomorrow, we should be putting online the Long Bay tank. That's been offline.
Oh, that's going online? Okay.
Yep, the paint job's complete. We filled it, sampled it, drained it, and now we're filling it today, sampling it tomorrow, and that should be ready to go back online.
Just curious, how long does it take to fill that tank?
It takes us a little over 8 to 10 hours
Oh, that's pretty
to
good.
fill the tank. But what we do is, we know, because it's a 500,000 gallon tank, so we know we've got a 500,000 gallons that's going into that tank in one day. So days prior, we fill up all the rest of the tanks, so that we're just concentrating on filling that tank at that particular point.
All right. Anybody have any questions?
No, but it's interesting that Long Bay, having watched that on the chart here for years, that to know that that's done.
Yep.
It's interesting.
That was ticking.
Condition pretty good?
The condition was good. We actually went through, had it sandblasted inside and out down a bare metal. Because of its proximity to the Long Bay neighborhood and the houses, we actually had the entire tank encased in a canvas tarp, so it was kind of a controlled environment, so that we didn't have any dust, overspray, anything along those lines. And so that's being wrapped up in the next day or two, and that's a capital purchase that you've seen coming for a couple of years, and that was basically just shy of about $800,000.
Expensive projects.
Big project.
Anything else you wanna,
I'm all set if you are.
anybody, we all set?
Yeah, I
Yes.
have one question. How many of the projects you had slated for 17, 18 were you able to accomplish?
17-18 is the year that we are currently in.
Right?
So we did the tank. The tank was a separate item that we funded. 17-18, we've just, we haven't done any of the pipe projects yet. We've done some of the purchases.
But everything that you had slated to be done, that you gave us to be done for 17, 18 is going to be done?
The one that we're not going to be doing was going to be Merrimack Street. That, because of scheduling with our own work and Public Works, we're going to carry that over, and that's going to be done in the fall as opposed to the spring, so it changes fiscal years.
Thank you.
What's your total capital outlay for your projects?
It varies from year to year. We usually have somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000, $700,000 that we can actually fit into the budget after you factor in the depreciation. But the reason that we've been able to do the Lakeside North Main and the Long Bay tank was we foresaw some of these issues coming, and we've been saving money for these particular projects. That's why we're going to have to look at, if we're going to continue with these larger projects in the future, funding them.
Does the state give you any type of funding at all, or subsidize you somehow?
No, they do not. We're able to get a 75% grant for a stationary generator at the treatment plant. That was a year and a half ago.
Why did they do that?
It was a Homeland Security grant that is a state revolving fund, and we applied for it due to the system and how we needed in an emergency in order to be able to power different areas at different times. Filled out the paperwork, and we got the go-ahead. So that was good.
Anybody else? Any more questions? Well, thank you, Seth.
All right. Thank you very much.
And the next group would be the police department.
Good evening. I'm Alan Brayton, the Operations and Support Division Commander, and everybody knows Chief Canfield. If I could pass that. Oops, sorry. Some stuff here. Just bring.
I'll take it for the file. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our first request that we have is for police vehicles. On your first page is the first page there with the yellow highlights on it. That's our projected rotation of vehicles, mainly due to mileage and the amount of repairs it costs to keep them on the road after they hit a certain mileage. It gets exponential. This would allow us to replace our light bars on the vehicles as well. Most of the light bars that we have on the vehicles, except for 2 that we currently have, 3 that we'll be putting in service, that we just got, those were back in around 2000. That was through the Project 54 grant out of UNH, and we haven't purchased any equipment for the vehicles since then. This will also allow us to purchase new radios. Part of this proposal also further on is radios and radio systems. Our radios as well were given through the, I can't remember the name of the grant, through the state at approximately the same time. So our mobile radios are old and they're out of their service life. They've also gone past the point where Motorola actually makes the parts for them anymore, and will service them. So this will allow us
So
to...
that's the basis on selecting one over the others, so that type of thinking, the parts over the other? I mean, I noticed that you have some vehicles that have larger, more mileage
Yep.
than others, but
some of those
aren't
vehicles-
checked. You're not looking at those to replace those.
Right, those are not frontline vehicles. Those
Okay.
would be detectives' vehicles, so they don't get the amount of mileage that the frontline vehicles get. The first line is 2017, those are the ones that we're replacing this year. The mileage for 9/11/2017, those are the 3 vehicles we're replacing this year with new vehicles. So for 2018, we'd be looking at 3 vehicles as well. And those are mainly line vehicles, so they get the most mileage. Detectives' vehicles don't get as much mileage on them every month as the frontline vehicles do. So the request for those for years through 2023, 24.
Clear me up my mind for a moment, will you? If you don't mind.
Not a problem.
You have a Ford, 109,000, 110,000, right? Then you have a Chevy with 93,000.
Mhm.
But the 109,000, you're not looking for that one, but you want the 93,000. Why?
The car 7, that's assigned to detectives. It doesn't get the amount of mileage the other vehicle gets every year. That would be well beyond those miles. The number 3, the 2004 Chevy, would be well beyond those miles by next year. So that's being replaced this year. Plus, there's some rot on the body as well on that vehicle. So those are the ones that we're replacing this year that we've already got the capital from for last year. So the mileage, projected mileage for 2018, 2019, 2020, those are the ones that we're planning on.
So you're already
replacing.
replacing the 17s? right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we took delivery of 2 of the vehicles
Already?
today.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Were they Fords or?
Yes, yep,
I heard you're going back to black and whites, is that true?
yes.
All right. Are they SUVs or regular cars?
SUVs. There's much more room for, the officers in them. The sedans are good for like an administrative car, but for somebody who goes out on patrol with all their equipment on, with their cruiser bag, and plus the sedans, if you put anything in the trunk, really you almost got to crawl to the front of the trunk to get the stuff out. There's not a whole lot of room in them. So the SUVs give a lot more room for the officers, all the equipment that we carry in the trunks of the vehicles, easy access to those items as well.
Have you had any problems with the Ford SUVs for the carbon monoxide?
We haven't. We purchased a couple of carbon monoxide detectors for them, just to be sure, but we haven't had any issues with our 2 that we currently have. Yeah, the 2017.
It almost sounds like it's when you punch holes, put the equipment in is what the problem is.
That was what Ford got
Same.
from there.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've also heard rumors that they've had cracked heads and stuff like that, but we haven't had any issues, and I haven't heard of any other departments in the area. You know, Manchester, I think, had one where the officer passed out, but I don't know what the cause was from for that. But we do have carbon monoxide detectors in those vehicles now,
Okay.
just to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
The new vehicles have a redesign, so that shouldn't be an issue. Any other questions on the cruisers? So we've gone out to 2023-24 with the cruisers. We're looking for 3 cruisers each year at $135,000. Next in your pack.
Is that price, does that include your light bar and all that? Did you say?
Yes.
It does,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the equipment.
And the install?
The equipment, the install, correct. Yeah,
Okay.
we've priced that in there so that we don't have to eat it out of our budget now.
So those are just, what do you do with those vehicles? Does another department put a
Yeah,
bid in
we
for them?
surplus them to DPW and.
And you do,
then,
okay. So
another-
that's still
I know the
on-
fire department has taken our cruisers in the past, Parks and Recs has had a couple in the past.
Okay.
They use them after we get to that point where we get rid of them.
Planning department and zoning and,
Because you really don't get much for them on a trade-in, maybe like $500.
We've never traded them in, we always surplus them, and then if they're really bad, they go down to the state auction. If they can't be, any of the parts can't be scavenged from them, they'll be going down to the state auction.
Yeah.
But they did parts, doors off them and stuff. Yeah. Any more questions on the cruisers? Our next request is for our radio system upgrade. I know we've put this before you twice already. And we've also, in the past, in 2015 and 16, we applied for state Homeland Security grants in conjunction with the fire department. Neither of those years were we granted that money. So once again, we're requesting it. The first page you have is from OME, the letter from the project manager there. What this upgrade and change would do is the repeater system that we currently use is fiberglass poles. Those repeaters would be replaced with a microwave system. And for our communications to go from dispatch up to the fiberglass pole, like the repeater on Parade Road, that goes through a phone line. We've had numerous problems with the phone lines. Just last month, our radios were down for 6 hours during the middle of the night due to phone lines going down. There's no other way to get it to that site without the phone lines, the copper phone lines. They're old, they're aged, and people really don't use them anymore. There's only a few people that work for Fairpoint that still work on, they're called FDDA lines. They're dedicated data lines. There's not too many of the guys left there that know how to work on those and fix them and get the kinks out of them. So this would replace that old technology with the new technology of the microwave system. And also, it would add a second frequency for us to use. Right now, we only have one frequency that we use for everything, whether it be day-to-day operations, motorcycle week, Pumpkin Fest. So you take all the radio operations that we have going on a daily basis, and then you add, 20 or 30 other officers on the radio at the same time. It's not a good system. We tried using, even last month, we tried up at the full-scale active shooter drill that we did at Woodland Heights. We tried using, they're called TAC channels through our radios that we have that are already programmed. We couldn't talk from Woodland Heights down to the intersection of Highland and Winter Street, which in a real situation, that's where you would have your command post further away from whatever the critical incident was. So we need that second radio system to be able to, in today's day and age, with all the incidents that we cover, critical incident stuff, so to be able to have those units on a single channel and then everybody else on a separate channel. So that would give us 2 channels and that whole system that would, currently at the Parade Road repeater, we have it looks like a metal shower stall with all the radio equipment in it. That doesn't have air conditioning, it doesn't have heat. So that ages the equipment even further. This system would put dedicated air-conditioned, heated buildings for that radio equipment to be in. This system would also allow the fire department, public works, the water department, anybody else to get onto that system as well. They'd have to provide their own transmitters, but the microwave system would be able to handle as many different channels that you could put on it. So that would help the city further down the line if any other departments wanted to put up some type of radio communication.
So you were looking for a grant last year, right? And you.
2015 and
Fire
16.
department was gonna put were you guys doing it, or was the fire?
We did it in conjunction. We did it
But who actually
together.
filed it, the fire department?
Yes, yeah, they filed it. Yep.
And who was working with Belmont? Was it fire to fire or police with them? I'm not sure how, is there anything with Belmont? That's my question, I guess.
Anything with Belmont?
Yeah, as far as getting into the funding with you guys or something like that.
No.
There isn't, okay.
Is this a, do you need the total system, or is this something we can build on?
You could build the microwaves itself, then you'd
Right.
have to buy additional equipment, because our equipment is so old, it's data, it's not, it's analog, it's not digital. So for that system to be able to talk to a digital system, you'd have to purchase extra equipment to get the radios to talk to the transmitters. And that's the catch-22.
Yeah.
To be able to do it in pieces, it's gonna cost a lot more in the long run to do it in the pieces than it would be to do it all at once.
If you put that system in, obviously it'll cover the area a lot better.
Yep.
Can other local towns jump onto that if they have the equipment at their PDs or fire department?
Well, they could get onto our frequency they'd have to install their own equipment as far as transmitters and receivers.
That they could use our,
Yeah, technically they could, yeah.
We-
If that was something.
We've separated ourselves from the fire department on this radio grant.
Yeah.
We initially did the radio grant combined with them to increase their radio system as well. This year, we separated ours from them, so if they were to jump on our system, they would have to provide all their equipment, which has been separated out. So this is not in combination with the fire department, and it's not in combination with Belmont or anything else, so this is just our system. It's expandable, but they would have to fund the equipment, which is, that state grant that we applied for was bringing both of them together because they like the interoperability, and that's how you get those grants. But since that didn't work twice in a row, that's why we separated ourselves from it, and this is just for our system.
so what do you, is it like repeaters you're looking for? That would be digital? Is that what you?
Yes, it's the repeater sites as well as the hardware that goes with it, the transmitters and receivers.
And dispatch?
Yeah,
Just
Dispatch,
we broke it.
I broke it out.
yeah.
It's broken into two separate things,
Yeah.
but it is replacing the whole radio system. The dispatch console that we have is the same one that was in 51 Church Street that was brought over and put in the station now, so that's why it's so antiquated now. One thing we have, which was brought to light recently, is that Motorola does a long-term lease, which may be a way of making this happen over a period of time and leasing it versus an outright purchase.
All the stuff.
All of it.
Yeah.
Which is a way of doing it. We haven't had enough time to research that and do that, but.
That'd be
it's a
interesting to find
possibility.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian Perusta, who did this letter, he actually came here last
Yeah, I
year. He
remember
was in a
that.
wheelchair to do the presentation. He's working on that for me. I tried getting hold of him today, but he was out of the office.
I guess my question is kind of, we spend $400,000 or plus
But it's,
and to do
2000
this.
just to give you an idea of the prices, 2015, when we put this, it was 380,000. Last year, the price went to 420,000. And this year, taking the fire department totally out of the, it's just our radios, 498,000. It's continuously going up in price.
In addition,
I guess what
there
I'm
was-
saying is, if we put $500,000, the city of Laconia does this, and if Guilford buys a transmitter, I guess is what you're saying, or,
Well, they'd have to have permission from us. They can't just
Okay.
use the system.
Okay.
Because they have to go into our dedicated trailers where all that equipment will be stored and housed, and the air conditioning and heating, all that. They can't just put something up at their PD and bounce it off.
So how
our
much would they
microphone.
save if they went in with,
It
say,
really wouldn't work that way. This system is set up for coverage in Laconia.
In Laconia.
Microwave is it's a line
it's
of
line of
sight.
sight?
Yeah.
So, if Guilford tried to do that in Guilford, using our site, it really wouldn't work, because it's line of sight set up for coverage around.
there's no cost benefit, even if there wasn't the line of sight issue, would there be any cost benefit for them to do something with us?
I don't think they could do it.
No, 'cause-
If you look at like Guilford has a repeater on the top of, I think it's Mount. So it's set up for their town. The coverage wouldn't, even if they wanted to, if they got on our system, it wouldn't work. because of the
I'm not
location.
so much talking about them joining us.
I know what you're
I'm
thinking.
talking about them, exactly.
They wouldn't be able to.
They wouldn't be able to.
Okay.
That
You
has
could
to be
say,
directly
come down the
hitched
road
into
and
this
join us, but
system.
say initially, would that help with the Homeland Security or something like that? I mean, you were piggybacking with the fire department.
Right, yep.
So if you went for a grant separately, would that, the probability of success is greater at that
No,
point?
if we went for grants separately, your probability of success is much lower.
Oh, okay.
They like a local, regional togetherness. The separate department type thing, they don't, and really don't know why it didn't go through. I mean, we had one of the people who work for Homeland Security help write the grant this past year. So,
Yeah, there's-
So if you tried to write another grant, probably wouldn't happen?
no, it didn't, and she couldn't understand why it didn't go through. So, I don't know if it's not a large enough region for them. You know, if it was something like Lakes Region Fire Mutual Aid, they could probably get one, because they cover how many towns and cities.
They're analog also, right?
They have a microwave system.
Theirs is all microwave.
Yep.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was analog.
I do have to mention that the last 2 years, the CIP has set aside $100,000 each year, so there's $200,000 sitting for this project. So,
So that would reduce this 400 and change down to
300
by
and change.
200,000?
right.
Yep.
The fire department bought their radios. They're portables.
We
They got new ones, right?
We got some money for portables last year as well.
Mm.
Yeah, that's one of our requests again, too. We got $35,000 last year for the portables, so we were able to buy 10 new portables.
10?
So what happens if we stay the way we are? I mean, I don't know.
The reliability is not there.
The equipment, if, a lot of that equipment is past its service life. So, one, Motorola, there's no warranty left on any of our equipment. Motorola isn't making the parts any longer.
So you can't upgrade them, you can't do anything, okay, you
And
can't fix them?
And their stock of parts that they have to be able to repair the stuff is gonna be gone. They estimate as of January 1st, you're not gonna be able to repair
And you have
a lot
someone
of these
in
pieces.
your department that does, the hardware,
No, we have
fixing,
Ospey
Huh?
Mountain. Ospey Mountain works
you
on
send it all out, okay.
Yeah, well, they'll come to if
No,
it's
but I
at
mean,
one of
right
the
now,
radio sites.
you have someone in your department that does that, right? I mean, fixes and whatever they do.
Fixes the radios?
No, you
No.
don't, okay.
No.
All right.
The risk is that eventually the system is gonna die and not work.
And it's, it'll-
Handwriting's on the wall.
When that
you say.
is, if it's tomorrow, if it's 5 years from now, I don't know, but it's 20-plus years old,
Okay.
you know, so that's where we're
Because
at.
you didn't come out too high last year, and I don't know when that came out, it just didn't happen, you know, so.
and when it
City,
fails.
like you
it's
said,
the
though, the
whole-
city did send some money aside,
Yeah.
because we know it's coming.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have to do the dispatch at the same time? Can that be done?
Again, some of the equipment for dispatch that talks to the radio system itself, those are no longer you can't replace them, we can't get one to borrow, we can't. So that's another piece of it that is getting to the point where, when it breaks, we have to make the leap.
As you add all that up, it's almost $1 million.
Yep.
Yep.
So any other questions on the radio upgrade? Next would be the dispatch upgrade. That takes everything that, from the base station at the PD, that takes and transmits everything into the dispatch console. We have 2 redundant consoles, so we can have 2 dispatchers on at a time, or if one console went down, like we had last year, we had one of the pieces that is old, failed. So they had to switch over to the second console, and we got that part replaced, and we also replaced the identical part on the other console, because it's kind of like headlights in your car. When one goes, the other one's short behind. They're both the same age piece of electronics, there was no damage to them. So that'll cover all of the software, all the Motorola software, new computers, and everything that takes all the dispatch and transmits it to the radio. That's $371,099.
But that can be done separate, independent of the other, no,
No.
it can't be.
No, because
So you-
again, once you switch.
The whole package should be
Once we
just about
switch from-
900,000 when it's done.
Yep.
And then the police department, the fire department, they're gonna need a dispatch system also, I would think, or is it?
Not, the fire department just doesn't dispatch for themselves, they get out of Lakes Region Mutual Aid. They could install, like I said, transmitters and receivers in our transmit and receive sites, and that could enhance their operability within the city. But it wouldn't be the extra cost for the microwaves and all the big hardware.
So we wouldn't see 371,000 for the same need with them?
No, because they don't dispatch for themselves, that's all out of the mutual aid.
Okay.
Can that also be part of the lease?
Yes, yeah, 'cause it's all Motorola equipment. So he'll work on that as soon as he gets back into the office. You know, he was gonna work on it last week.
Is that a lease to purchase, or?
Yes. Yep.
Curious
I
question,
believe it goes to 5 years.
and I maybe missed something, but if Lakes Region Mutual Aid has already done this, gone to the microwave, why can't we tag onto them?
We don't dispatch through Lakes Region Fire Dispatch,
But why can't we use their equipment?
because theirs
As
is
we-
set up for it's just a totally different system.
Okay,
The fire department's, and correct me, Al, if I'm wrong, but the fire department wanted to tag onto our system to improve their coverage inside of buildings only.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
would still
Within the
use the
city.
Lakes Region system for their normal radio signals, for dispatching of calls, for talking and stuff like that. Theirs was an enhancement for specifically inside of buildings,
okay.
whereas ours is a system designed just for the city.
Okay, and we couldn't, because they were talking about how Guilford could, if it wasn't line of sight, that Guilford could,
It just
Go
wouldn't
in and
work.
do, okay.
It wouldn't work. It would be almost like you'd have to create a giant system is what you'd do. So
Okay.
They're almost two different purposes.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on the dispatch console? So the next on our list is portable radios. They said last year we got $35,000, we were able to purchase 10 new portables. That now puts, we'll have two or three of the oldest model radios that we had, that officers are still using. Those parts are not made, the radios can't be repaired with any parts from Motorola. We've had a couple that, break a few things, and we'll scavenge other radios that are broken to get those parts for them. This would help us put radios newer than 2010 to the officers. And our plan is, because we never really had a plan for replacement of radios. It's just like, here's some radios, and then that's it. So our plan would be to start replacing those on a yearly basis to try to get everybody up into something that's still serviceable, is still possibly warranted by Motorola, and can still be repaired, and they make parts for them.
How many do you have, Al, radios?
We have 40, total 45, I believe.
Each one's assigned to an officer?
Correct. We do have a couple of spares that the CROs use, that the ACO uses, that type of thing.
So that's for 10 radios at 35,000?
Depending, the price may go up on the radios.
I'm just saying, that's
Yeah,
how
that's
you-
what we paid this
that
purchase.
was your thought on it, okay.
Yeah. 10
And that
radios.
would, you have
That
10
would-
remaining, right, to replace?
Oh, we have.
Did I misread that?
No, we have
It said
35 to still
35.
replace.
35 more to go,
Yeah,
okay.
we got 10.
You got, that's the 10 that you got,
The
all
10
right.
that we got this
okay.
past year.
Now, the ones that you're getting, those can be used on the new system that's coming?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Any more questions?
The 10 radios that you got, are those also able to be used on the new system?
Yes.
They're all, so we've already
Yep, they're all
started that way.
compatible. Yes. So our last request is for an evidence drying station. We have some literature in your packet for that. We've never had a dedicated evidence drying cabinet. We did have, we made one out of plywood, painted it.
Like this?
and- Yeah. Put locks on the doors.
Put the logo on the front door.
Yeah, biohazard, stay away.
No, Laconia Police on.
The issue with that is, there's no air that's circulated through it. Also, anytime any blood or any biological matter dripped onto the shelving or whatever in it, it was only painted, so it was still rather porous. Big issues with cross-contamination of DNA evidence from different cases. Also, just the bloodborne pathogens drying off the blood in the air. It's really not suitable for officers in the evidence room. So this project would be, it's a self-contained, it's a side-by-side model. It's got two separate doors on it. So say you have a stabbing, you have blood on the suspect and on the witness, or the victim. Those items would be put on two separate sides of that container, so there could be no, say, they pressed the clothes together when they were drying, so there was cross-contamination of blood. So to keep the evidence chain and to keep the evidence secure as well, this also has a drying fan in it, and it also has HEPA filters, has a electrostat, the light, the blue light like they have at McDonald's, yeah, that kills all the pathogens and stuff like that. So it's safe. It is safe for the officers around it, and it also keeps a very good chain of evidence.
Do you leave the evidence in that?
Yep.
Or do you
Yeah,
dry it and
locks.
put it somewhere?
Well, once it's dried, then it gets stored in paper bags,
Yeah.
and then it goes into the evidence room. But this would allow the bloods, that type of stuff to be dried onto the clothing or whatever piece of evidence it was. And it can also be easily cleaned with a bleach and water solution. It's all polypropylene inside, it's sealed unit, so there's no chance of contamination.
So this setup is all for blood or DNA-based type stuff?
Fluids.
Any type of evidence that
Fluids.
needs to be dried, yep.
All right.
Yeah, Could be just wet clothes in a river. You know, somebody jumps out of a river, you get the clothes off because they just robbed the store. Dry that clothing because it has their DNA on it. You know, somebody described
Take them
the
to our
suspect
laundry
as having.
mat, nobody could use it.
This is probably more than I want to know.
All right, I was
Yeah,
curious.
even a mask, a ski mask or something like that, somebody robs a store, it's gonna have some sweat and DNA inside of it. You wanna be able to preserve that, you dry it, and then you can send it down to the lab and they can pull some epithelials from the.
From the
skin cells.
fibers themselves, yeah.
I take it other departments use this kind of equipment and are challenged by lawyers with it.
I don't know of any personally that have that, but I know this will cut down on any type of challenges, is, you know, compared to a wooden box that we just hang it in
Right.
and put a little tiny hash block
I
on.
think the biggest thing is the safety thing towards the officers. Right now, you walk in the evidence room, if you go in, you know, a midnight patrol officer takes bloody clothes or something like that, they're hanging it in the outer evidence room where all those, everything's just going into the air. And that's what everybody's walking into, anyone that tags evidence, and that's what they're being exposed to.
Is your drug sealed up? Your drug evidence, is that sealed somewhere?
Well,
So that
sealed-
doesn't get
sealed.
exposed?
To
You
the.
know, like fentanyl, I mean, it's just, you don't, I mean, that's sealed up,
That's-
right?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a safety concern too, but at least that, you don't have to leave it out in the open to dry it like you do blood evidence. You know, the blood evidence, you can't do anything with it until it actually
Can't
dries.
package it up,
And then
because
you can
otherwise it'll
package it
mold.
and secure it as evidence. The drugs, you can secure it, and at least it's
Yeah.
self-contained by itself, so.
They really just put it in a paper bag afterwards? It's not sealed in some sort of,
No, it has to stay in the paper because otherwise there may still be a little tiny residual moisture, and if you put it in like a plastic
It'll
bag, it's gonna
degrade.
mold.
Yeah,
It'll
it-
degrade the DNA specimens.
How big is
Specifically,
this?
wet evidence, like dry evidence, it can go in plastic. The lab has very specific specifications
Interesting.
for how it has to be packaged, or they don't accept it for testing.
Yeah.
So whether it's wet evidence, whether it's dry evidence, whether it's drugs, it all has to be packaged.
Did you vent that outside, or how big is the cabin? Do you vent it outside so it doesn't get in
No,
in the
it's got.
atmosphere
it's-
of the building?
It takes air in, it has a filter on the air that comes
Yeah.
in, and it has a HEPA filter and the light, an ultraviolet light that kills any type of organisms
Right.
in the venting air.
And
So
then it
it's
goes
got-
back
it got-
out to the general area, is that what you're saying?
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
How
This
big is the
has-
cabinet?
The one I spec'd out was 8 feet wide, so it'd be 2 4-foot braided
Good
containers.
size. You won't need a bigger station to put that in then, right?
No,
Start working on it now.
No expansions, right?
After you guys get that station, you disappeared.
We gotta take this wall out now.
Now you're starting to amp it up a little bit. Right?
how long does it take typically to dry?
Depends on how wet it
Depends
is.
upon how it is.
right.
There you go.
And right now, we just have to
Right.
and let it just regular air dry. This has a fan that pulls the air through the machine, so that'll help dry it quicker. And that request is for $12,000, and we get a spare
TMI.
filters.
Hey,
What?
Right.
It's just things I don't think I really needed to know.
Well, it's always nice to know.
Just look at things in a whole different way.
I know. See, now I'm gonna be afraid to walk in, one more deterrent not to go into the police station, right?
Any other questions?
Yeah, Alan, you got anything else you want to bring out, or you're all set?
No,
Okay.
just with the police vehicles and with the portable radios, that's part of that three-pronged approach with the letter from OME, is all of our, like I said, all of our vehicle radios are old, and so are our portables, so just trying to get those upgrades done, so.
Anybody else got any questions?
Up until last year, we had never asked for money for portables in forever. We used to provide portables through federal funding. That's where we got all of our original computers in the cars. It's where we got all of our original car radios, the ones that are still in service today. So that's why you see the portable radios. That's why you see the radio system, because that funding's not there. We've done, as you know, we research grants, we apply for grants, we use grants a lot. speaking of that, I want to thank you. You guys funded 7 mobile data terminals for our cars last year. It's a way of life for patrol officers now. They can't function without a computer anymore because everything they do is on those computers. You funded 7 of them last year. We got grant funding to fund an additional 4, which completes replacement of all those computers. In addition, we got federal funding for the e-ticket system, which is the new way of business that they're doing, so you don't get a handwritten summons anymore. It gets printed out and submitted electronically to the court. So all that equipment was provided with grant funds that we tagged along onto those 7 MDTs that you purchased last year. So just an example of how, fiscally conservative we are. We bring before you stuff that we need, not necessarily what we want. Not saying the world's going to fall apart if we don't get funding for some of these items, but we bring these things before you because they are legitimate concerns and legitimate needs that, over the course of the last 20 years that I've been here, we haven't had replacement plans for replacement of car radios, replacement of portable radios, and we're at the point now where that stuff is all very, very antiquated. So if we don't look forward, this stuff's going to fail at some point, and then we're going to be kind of dead in the water. So before that point happens, we need to start putting some plans into place to replace
You guys have been
some of
very good over the years, and
stuff,
what you've come in for is, really ongoing, and
Just,
just that kind of
just the
stuff.
cruisers and that generator that you needed on Parade Road, that's it.
That
That's
was
really been it.
purchased by Bike Week funds.
Yeah, but that's been about the only thing in the last 20 years that you guys have
You guys
asked for.
have been excellent that way.
We bought, if I remember right, at least 2 cruisers and that generated through Bike Week
I think
funds.
we did, yeah.
But it would be nice if they gave you some indication why they didn't give it a grant, at least you get something to work on,
Yeah.
another.
We've reached out to people that sit on the grants subcommittee, and we haven't been successful getting any indication of why it was denied over other ones being accepted.
Same project, same everything, Jay accepted and we're not.
Yep.
Okay.
Most grants never give
Yeah.
you a reason.
I'm sorry. I can't-
Most grants never give you a reason.
No reason at all. Well, if they did, then give you something to work
Right,
on,
yeah.
We will
Place to
research the
improve.
lease option for that
Yep.
whole radio system as well, and at least give you that as an option as well.
Do you think you'd have it, no, you wouldn't have it by the time we get
What's that?
this.
Yeah.
We'll get it as soon as we can and
Yeah.
get it to you.
I should have some pricing, hopefully, beginning of next week.
Oh, next week?
Yeah. He started working
If you
on
can
it
let
for
us
me
know,
last week,
because
so-
we don't need to do these till,
Yeah, the scoring is, where's my calendar? Scoring is due, I think, in November, so there's
Yeah.
time for sure
Should definitely
to,
have numbers
to
before November.
revise things. I don't have a calendar. But yeah, the scoring's not due till November, so if you guys have information, we can send it to the.
Okay.
So maybe give vote changes, the water
Yeah.
department, yeah.
November 1st.
Thank you. November 1st.
Okay. I will get Randy something for that.
Any more questions at all? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
thank you.
You want to drive?
Yeah, I'll drive. Okay. A little different, you should all have a handout.
I didn't see any Bailey Bridge in here. Where's the Bailey Bridge?
There's a Bailey Bridge in the back.
Okay.
I left it in the back, it's in the backup.
It's in the
I
last
didn't want to
page.
waste your
I don't
time.
Last
know, the
page.
paper said they weren't too happy with you.
Float bridge, do it all the time. Okay. A little bit different from the others because we have a lot that are in there. I'm going to focus on the differences between last year and this year, and then a little bit of update some of the approved projects. So if we go,
Need the lights off?
that's up to you. I think most of them you'll be able to see. If we need it, we can turn it off.
I can get the ones up here if you want.
That's why I wasn't sure.
So, okay. So the first slide really deals with the major changes and some critical issues. You'll find the Laconia parking garage in there as a placeholder with no dollars. It's up to city council to determine what they want to do, and then we can start determining what that is going to cost. The other piece is you'll find a separate one in there just for inspection and interim repairs. Based off of the last inspection we just finished and the rate of progression on the corrosion on the plates on the decks, we need to go to a 1-year inspection cycle. So what you see there, the $42,000, is the engineers to inspect it, whatever repairs that we have to do. Some major changes, Court Street, the design's underway for that project. We're doing it in conjunction with Court Street Bridge. We'll talk more on that. But we did get approval, verbal, we haven't got written yet, to swap the years that'll be executed for the Court Street Bridge and the Academy Street Bridge. Court Street will now be 2020, which puts us closer into having it synchronized with the work we're doing on Court Street. Messer Street, we haven't finished the design yet. We're getting ready to put a coffer-dam in on the pipe that runs from the Dutile property to determine what's wrong with that pipe. Once we get that, we'll have a finalized estimate of it, but we already know from what we have designed to date, we're above the bonded value. So we're going to have to work with our normal annual program I get for just general citywide drainage repairs to supplement that.
So is that different from when he came into the planning board and
He came in recently for another project for himself. That was to change a building he tore down and put a new building in its
Right,
place.
wasn't there drainage in the front of that?
No, this is the existing
Something
one
different?
that's down by their main entrance, as you go in front, on Messer Street, past Irwin's. You go past the building that's close, and then you can turn in. There's one catch basin that's in there that basically drains Messer Street and their property and goes right to the lake.
So that wasn't included when he came for the planning board, huh? I guess, I thought it was.
No,
Okay.
that was part of our project
Okay.
that was approved,
Right.
it was before I got here. Okay, next one is some additions that you see here, and I won't concentrate most on this. I have slides that talk more on these topics further on, with the exception of the planning ones, the bike lanes, and sidewalk along Wirtz Boulevard. We're not really talking designs at that point. We're talking enough design effort to determine where they need to go, on what side of the road, and what impact they're going to have. So it'll help us for planning purposes in the future when other developments come in. It'll give us the ability to say, this is where it needs to go, and this is where, how you make the change to your plans to fit this. And then we'll talk more in the Weirs Beach docks. Okay, you don't have any other slides on this. I put in, not all of them, but I put in 3 of the 7 upgrades for the traffic signals. You can see the 3 that are here. Typical work, pedestrian countdown displays, make them ADA compliant. The ones that don't have cameras will have cameras to replace the loops. And then each one is a little different. Some we've got to replace mast arms, some we have to replace the black boxes that are in the cabinets. So you can see what the prices are from our last estimate for those 3 particular traffic signal systems. Drainage improvements, Weirs Boulevard, we've put that in. If you've been driving on it shortly after a rainfall, you'll see some of the water starting to sit on the road because it has no place to go. What we're looking at is to begin the process on that street to do the designs in increments necessary through, and then do the construction necessary that will set it up for later on road improvements down the road. South Pine and Main Street, we have a major stormwater main that goes underneath the building, and it's the old rock-built type. And so now when we get a heavy rainstorm, it's starting to come into their basement. $5,000 just the initial, to do some initial estimates on what we can do to alleviate that problem and get it out from underneath the building. White Oaks Road is a smaller version of Weirs Boulevard. It basically focuses on those areas that really don't have a drainage system. Where can we send it and how can we fix it so we can keep the water off the road? On the environmental standpoint, we did Frank Bean Road. We did the burn dump. On the other side of Morin Road from Frank Bean is the old city landfill. And up north of Reed's property, where he has the car yard, the demo yard, actually is the urban renewal landfill, where they dumped all the construction and demolition debris from urban renewal time. So the city's on the hook for doing the appropriate remediation action. for that piece and for the urban renewal piece. We're in discussion now with Department of Environmental Services to start negotiating on when we can do it. I had a slice in there, $200,000 to start the construction and demolition debris on the landfill side that the city's been putting in for a few years to clean that up over time. That may, depending upon what negotiations happen, may get pulled into becoming part of the remediation effort, depending upon our negotiations with Department of Environmental Services. Are there any questions on that piece? That's a lot of information in a very brief period of time. Okay, bridges. We've added a new one, the Langley Cove on Weirs Boulevard. That was officially put on the state red list for bridges this year. So it's getting higher in priority for the state. And we've added in this time so we can get some seed money and the state to add it onto their repair schedule. Same with Hilliard Road, which you saw last year, and Messer Street Bridge that you saw last year. We have confirmed that the Wood Bridge over the railroad tracks up by Where's the Beef area is scheduled for removal in 2025. The state has, in some of their program, put in some money to improve one of the intersections, either up by Aqua Marina or down by the boardwalk.
Wooden Arch Bridge is
The
coming
Wood
down?
Arch, right,
Really?
yes. So we're going to have to start thinking of,
That ought to go over good.
I've heard that rumor for a while. This is confirmation.
It can't be
this is
kept,
confirmation, it's in their 10-year plan.
it
We're
can't
gonna make comments back, but I don't think we're gonna get it changed in there. We'll just be able to maybe get more money to be able to improve one of our intersections that gets them into that old Methodist campground, Aqua Marina
be, so it
area.
can't be left there as a pedestrian bridge?
We've got a pedestrian bridge already, and they've got about 1.6 million to tear it down and do something. They haven't said what the and something is because they haven't looked at it yet. They don't even have money to start the study yet.
Is the pedestrian bridge we have already the one by the marketplace?
Yes. Yeah, I know. It's not ours.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's part of the discussion, is
That
do we
Ames is-
replace a pedestrian bridge and over the existing? So more to follow, but that's probably the earliest 2023. But it has impact now on us because we have, all of our planning of what we're doing in the area is going to have to take that into consideration.
The car's still allowed to go over that one?
Yes.
The wooden one? It is.
Do you, if there's something to be done with one of these Centenary Ave intersections, are you guys going to interface with Aqua Soleil on some of that stuff that they have up there on the north end?
The part of the discussion, they have come back to us with some changes on Centenary Avenue. This gives us more of an issue in regards to whether that's even feasible or not if we lose that bridge, because it changes, their plans changes the intersection profile at the T with Lakeside and Scenic. We may not be able to do that if that becomes our major entrance in.
And that's just one thing I'd be aware of.
What class is that bridge, just that Wood Bridge by chance?
You wouldn't take a fire truck on it.
No.
If it was talking in military language,
Yeah.
I wouldn't take more than a 3/4 ton over it.
Okay.
Then we have our typical annual programs that we get so much money to do things as they pop up. Maintenance and repair of city streets, traditionally, we've gotten 1.6 million for that. Citywide drainage varies between 100 to 125,000 a year. Again, part of that's going to have to be used for the Messer Street dew tile drainage shortfall. Stormwater engineering studies is basically the preliminary planning portion of it to help us with our drainage projects in the future. Sidewalks, we're going to do it similar to our pavement management program in that we're going to start, once we get the pavement management put to bed, the first information back, that'll tell us what streets and sidewalks are being handled by that program. Then we'll start looking at the sidewalks, to use the sidewalk money to handle that to handle just the sidewalk only ones that we're not going to get to streetwise for quite a few years. We do have some where the sidewalks are in much worse shape than the roads. Fence, guardrail, and retaining walls are just things that pop up over years, resident requests, maintenance issues that we've got to change, and then the DPW vehicle purchase, and we'll talk a little bit more on that in the future. Okay, more details. Weirs boardwalk retaining wall, that one we may want the off to see if it shows up better. No, this one. There, a little bit better. Okay. That is the very north end of the boardwalk. There's really no drainage on Week Street, which is the higher level, and you can see what's happening. Every time there's a low spot, the water's running over, and it's just eroding the concrete retaining wall. And a lot of the places, the erosion's right around where the fence comes in. So we're starting to have a safety problem there, and we need to get it taken care of fairly quickly. From my standpoint, it's something either we have to fix the fence before the next bike week, or we got to change out the retaining wall and the fence before next bike week.
So that all has to be pulled out?
Yeah. I think based off the height, it's deeper at the, right adjacent to the boardwalk, but I think it's something that wouldn't be very complicated to do if we use the block wall type arrangements that you see alongside the road at the time. That's why I only estimated 70,000. I could be wrong, but I think it's feasible.
Is that something that your department can pull out that wall?
It's borderline. We may be able to do it. The issue's going to be is can we do it once we get up adjacent to the boardwalk, because we're getting close to 12 feet wall at that point.
So you did a great job on the one on Baldwin Street.
But whatever we do for this, we're going to have to make sure we have a good drainage system, and so we don't have the same problem again with the water running over the edge. This is the pedestrian bridge that's just south of us, right here. You can see that lower picture in the right. It's similar in construction to the parking garage, and we're starting to see the same type of problem where it's rusting at the metal connections. We can see that there is already loss of metal at the joints. We just can't tell how much because you can't get up in there easily. So we're really going to have to sandblast it, do a good inspection. I would anticipate we're going to have to reinforce it, and then we should come back behind and paint it. Otherwise, we're just going to keep having the same problem. It's bad enough we will no longer put our sidewalk tractors on it to plow it. It's got too much flex in it. And we've limited it to 10 people on the bridge at one time.
What is this, right over here?
That's the one just between us and the Belknap Mill.
Yeah.
So that's something that should be done fairly quickly. A little update on my building. We drilled about 5 holes in the floor to see what was actually happening, and we found that the floor is no longer supported by the dirt underneath it. We either have about 8 inches at the closest point to about 18 inches at the furthest point. These type of buildings are designed, just like a home is, to have supporting ground to hold up your floor if you have a slab or your basement foundation. So the only thing that's holding up my flooring right now is friction between the different plates and whatever little steel is left in it. It is sitting on edgewise where you go around the walls of the foundation. We are on piers, but the floor is not supported between
So
the piers.
how would you
That's part of the
pump
piece.
in? What would you do?
That's part of the piece that this is. We're gonna have to bring in an engineering firm to determine how to fix it. Worst cases, we would have to get out of the building, and they'd have to take the building roof off to be able to drive piles in. They may determine, that's part of the thing they're gonna look at, is it cheaper to fix the building, or is it cheaper to just build another building? So they're gonna have to determine that piece. But it's not an imminent hazard, but at some point, there's gonna be enough fatigue failure on that floor that it's just gonna drop, and then we're gonna have to do something at that time. Langley Cove Bridge, that's the one just beside our pump station. I think it's by the Tilton property, their resort. We haven't got approval yet from the state to add it to the program. Generally, we've asked for them to do the cost estimate to it, and typically if we program some money in our CIP and state we have, it helps the process going along to get them into the state program. So we're asking just for a placeholder type with 20,000 against it, so we can help convince the state that it's time to start.
So Bernie Sullivan participates because of what he liked to do there.
Right.
Okay.
Basically, the normal share for a bridge that's in the state program is 80% state, 20% city. Brady Sullivan would be 1/3 of the 20%.
That's if the Langley Cove project is approved and moves
Right.
forward.
Yeah, well,
Let's see. And then part of it, the other piece we need to think about is rebuilding the north end of the Weirs Boardwalk. Not the greatest photo. I really couldn't get any good shots of the status of how the wood's falling apart on it. Based off of what it costs for the south end at some point, we think it's around $435,000 to it. We may be able to lower the costs by using that material that you see at advertised Home Depot and Lowe's, where they put the real thick paint on to sort of seal it.
Yeah.
But I anticipate with the amount of traffic that we get on it, that may turn into an annual cost to us to have to touch
it
that
holds up, but you got other types of traffic that
Yeah, we
aren't
get a lot
considered
more-
normal traffic.
We get a lot more traffic on that than a homeowner's deck
Deals and
gets.
stuff like that.
So the piece that you can see in the bottom photo, everything in that gray area or the lighter gray area is Trex or one of those type composite material. Everything north of it is pressure treated wood.
That seems to be holding up pretty good.
It is. It's more rot resistant. Is it an imminent hazard? No, but it's something that we're going to have to do in the next year or so. And we just, depending upon how much money we got and what we're thinking of, if we do the interim, then we're going to have to program money probably every year to do the re-deck coating with that deck paint.
So the railroad doesn't participate with us in any of that, at least that section over there?
No, that's our boardwalk.
Okay.
The other piece I had is just a element of money, $30,000 in this case, to get a diver and a team to come in to basically inspect the status of our pilings on the dock. I think the last time it was checked, although I haven't found the plans, was back probably when we had the blowout on the boardwalk, although I haven't found any of the reports yet that says it truly was inspected at that time. So I think that was around the 2008 timeframe.
I don't think it was.
You don't think it was inspected?
I don't remember anything like that.
Yeah.
They might have
I
just
think it's,
replaced what,
pardon?
they might have just replaced what, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's time for us to go in and at least check it, just make sure we don't have a problem, and get it early before we do have something else happen. Yes?
Do you guys ever consider looking at the design of the Weirs docks? I mean, sometimes when you go in on a summer day, you put 2 boats out at the end of it, and that's it.
That's a much bigger problem because
It's
of
not
the,
wide enough for today's
Right.
boats.
Right. And so you know, effectively, the docks aren't being utilized to their full potential.
we can, that is a major reconstruction in that case, which means more environmental analysis, and we can go that way, but it's probably more, does the city council wish, give me some guidance, and do we want to pursue that? Because the cost will go up
What Mike is
fast.
saying, though, what happens is people dock at the end of the stock, so
And you can't get past
all that is wasted. And as a thought, and I don't know how practical this is, put railing up on the side, so if you park, say, on the dock on the side, right side, you can't get up onto the dock. So it requires you to park, let's say, on the left-hand side, and you'll get at least the use of the whole length, I think, Or just allow them to dock further up
And
on that side, you know what I mean?
in this particular case, we're just talking about inspecting what we have.
Yeah, I know, well, but that's an issue, and I think that's,
Sure.
that's an
I
important.
think it's something that, as forward-thinking people,
Some project updates. Let me see. Oops. Yeah, let me go back. I was too fast with my. Okay, Union Street Improvement Project. Based off the council's discussion from last year, I'm anticipating that there'll be support again for the upcoming fiscal year for another $2.5 million bond to work on Union Ave. We're looking at 2 sections. The section that goes from Main Street over the hill to Guilford Ave, and the section that goes from Elm Street to Stark. Bond payments for this, just like the next one you'll see, will come from the annual street maintenance program. So of that 1.6, depending upon what happens, it will be reduced, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Court Street, again, scheduled really to start when winter breaks next year. We'll have the design done at that point. Design's 253.5, may go up a bit because our initial design determined that we've got to up the drainage to make everything work, and part of that drainage has to go down Fair Street, so there may be some increased design costs. We are coordinating the effort with Court Street Bridge, as we need to make sure our approaches to the bridge work in our design and they work in their design. Again, bond payments come from the annual street maintenance program. The city council members, you've seen that slide already. As part of our pavement management study that we're doing right now, we're going to look to see what has the most impact on our street program for the future, whether doing a 7-year type bond payment plan is what you see here, or looking at to stretch it out to 10 years. Your annual cost will be less each year, but your total cost for the program will be more because you're paying for interest for a longer period. So it may be negligible, it may not have an impact, it may have, but that's something that we have to look at. Court Street, again, we have verbal approval that they moved that to 2020. You can barely see it. The only way you can tell where it is by the guardrail. It's right by the old gas station and the party store. Academy Street moved back, so they're going to 2022 versus 2020. And the annual programs, just as a reminder, street pavement management program, the pavement assessment is underway. Their first due out to us is late November, December, which really is analysis of the roads. Then after that, late winter is when they come back, and we have some ideas in regards to what the next 5 years look like, what's the impact on the program for the bond payments, and where do we think the roads are going to go with the next 5 years worth of money, whether we're going to improve them or go backwards. Just a reminder, purpose of the pavement management program is to make sure the new roads that you see on the right don't get to the point where it looks like the road on the left. Just bring this up in regards to, we did extensive soil and pavement analysis as part of the Court Street project, and we determined where the water table is and what the subsurface conditions are. Right now, it looks like to get any stability at all in that base, to have any decent life, we're going to have to pull about 12 inches material out and pull 12 inches of select fill in to be able to get the base strong enough to handle the pavement and the traffic that gets that road. So we won't be coming back to keep fixing it every 7 years or thereabouts. DPW vehicle replacement, we get about $190,000 a year. In the out years, that will need to come up just because of inflation. The current purchase that we're doing for the present fiscal year, we're really focused on increasing our snow removal capability. As you know, we have 4 dedicated sanding trucks that don't have plows or anything on them. We have purchased 4 slide-in salters to put into the back of our plow trucks. Once that has happened, we'll be able to get rid of those 4 dedicated sanders. So we'll be able to plow and sand at the same time and reduce our wasted time that's out in the street.
Are you looking to buy another 10-wheeler? Or?
We have a 6-wheeler scheduled to due in sometime in November. We're buying that on a lease program, and that and the cat loader that we bought was previously leased. So of that 190, we'll have about 60,000 for the bond payments from the earlier purchases, and about another 60,000 for the lease payments for 5 years.
What was the make of that?
The new one's a Freightliner.
What do we have now?
You've got Internationals right now, and Freightliners. You've got a mix. We did include all the requirements for training and all the software and everything we need for the new diesel emission systems that are on all these new trucks.
Do we have the maintenance to have parts for those?
Yeah, it's common around this area, and we'll have a 5-year warranty on it. So most of the problems the first couple of years were all associated with the diesel emission systems, which will be under warranty. But you still need to have the software to be able to determine if it truly is a problem, or if the operator didn't. These trucks are now living computers. You turn on the ignition, you have to wait till the computer does all its self-checks before you turn the ignition on. If you don't wait, you're gonna get a check engine light, it's gonna tell you there's a problem with the engine. So you've got to be able to determine what happened, was it the operator's fault, then clear the code so before you go out and operate the vehicle. Questions?
Good job.
And just to make you happy, there we go. Keep going, keep going, keep going. These are all backup slides.
Is that the moor and dump?
Yeah, that's the overhead of it. So it shows, you can see where the construction demolition debris is on the lower corner. The light areas where we keep our, or where we used to keep all of our used granite curbing that we reuse. We've gotten rid of the junk. We kept the good ones that came out of Lakeside, and we moved the location. This is more of what it looks like, the old mooring. What was the Union Avenue retaining wall, based off of what we found from some core samples that we took in the road. Basically, it's changing into a road project now because the sub-base is leached out enough that we don't have good compaction underneath it anymore. That's Hilliard.
retaining
There it
wall-
is. That's what I was trying to get to.
All right. Good man.
It's a return from last year.
Yes.
Yes.
I have a question on the Messer Street project there between Elm and Stark Street. When was that scheduled for?
Oh, you mean Union Street?
Union, yeah, sorry.
We don't want to mess up the main roads in one period. So the object is to do Court Street, get that done. Depending upon what the designers determine in what area we're tackling, we think Court Street's going to be between Fair, roughly, going west towards the Belmont line, probably ending just around the gas station. That's, I think it's the Budget Mart or whatever it used to be, Petro Mart.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That will then, once we know that, that'll tell us how long. We may be able to start doing Union in the fall timeframe, getting ready for that. Highly likely, it's probably going to be the spring of 2019. But we'll see what we can do with Seth's work. Maybe we can get Seth in during the fall of 2018 to do all of his water line. We can get in there and do some of our work that we need to do in preparation. Then come back, shorten that time frame up in spring when we're doing all the road work.
Do you have an idea, and this I heard about some time ago, and I know it's not the city, I recognize it's a railroad of the state, the replacement of that bridge right before the entrance to the weirs, there's a...
That is scheduled for 2019 right now. I don't know
2019?
that it goes out to bid late next year. So it should be the spring of 2019 would be my guess. I haven't seen enough of the plans to determine what they think their construction time's going to be in. I know they were talking, last time I talked with them, they were talking rapid bridge construction, which tends to mean everything's pre-panelized. You pull it out, you fix all your abutments, and you just drop the bridge in place. But they are going to close the bridge down totally. The current plan is still to have a emergency route for police and fire only that would use Channel Lane, go down, get across the railroad tracks,
Yeah.
and somehow come back up to Endicott Street so that the fire can respond to
I think
anything
at the
on that
back where it
side.
takes you out to Hilliard Road.
Yeah, it comes up on the Hilliard, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they won't go up that far. I figure they'll probably try to come up
And the drive-ins,
I thought it was
isn't
a
it?
drive-in area,
Oh, yeah.
I think
but it
that
depends on
road
whether
does.
they can get
Oh, yeah, you
negotiated.
gotta get, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
They can, again, through negotiation, because it's private property, private roads, get up to Hilliard Road, but that's, they wanted to go basically just far enough around to come up through the drive-in area.
Yeah, Dennison's got the gate over there.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Good
Try
job.
not to, I have a lot here, I didn't want to take up time with a lot of it, I just wanted to focus on the most critical pieces.
We appreciate it.
So how you doing with your project here to identify the thickness of the hot top and,
We still do that. Once we know what what roads they're talking about, or what the assessment comes out with.
Right.
We'll take that, and then we'll start going around and doing the course to determine what thickness and what work, what.
So you do it after you've identified where you're gonna be going? I mean,
I gotta know where we're going first before I send the
Okay, I
guys
thought
out.
you were doing it ahead of time, right?
Right, but I've got to know what the assessment is showing us and what recommendations are before I do that.
I hear what you're saying, I know clearly what you're saying, but maybe I misunderstood. I thought you were gonna go around the whole city and
No.
just be proactive that way.
We
but
go
not-
around to the ones we're thinking of doing.
Right, okay.
The next year or the next 2 years out.
What about the roads that weren't on the list, now they're on the list to be accepted or could be accepted, or what's the story?
That's
not
much
pursued.
more complicated.
it would be.
We'd be here for hours on that. The simplest way to put it is if we're going to go through the betterment acceptance process to accept it, then yes, part of that would be doing core samples
you.
to know what we've got there. But that's, you don't want to start that conversation.
I don't want to start it, just that someone had
Now, believe me,
mentioned
you don't want to start it.
it. Someone mentioned it at a meeting or something like that, and they felt indignant that they bought the house, they didn't know, and so,
Bless you again, jeez.
nothing to do with the city. It's just that the developer sold them a property and they didn't realize that, that they were on the hook kind of a thing. I guess he was trying to make a connection, or they had a gap initially when he bought the property between the sewer and the house, so he had to complete that. So it's a little bag of worms for the guy, so.
All right.
Any
Thank you.
questions, or?
Nope, I
Thank
think,
you, Wes.
Yeah.
So who's putting that Bailey Bridge in, you?
Hey, you give me enough people, we can do it.
Oh, Frankie, you do it 40 minutes at the outset, one
Oh,
platoon.
no.
All you need is one
Tractor.
platoon, that's all you need.
Depends on whether I need a double, single.
Double, you go the whole McGill out.
double.
Triple, who cares, right?
Okay, so let me see what we got.
Sounds like you're ordering ice cream.
I think a light tactical raft would be more than appropriate for a float bridge
Sure.
across the campus.
An EVLB, just put that across the weirs, thinking you don't have to worry about it. Okay, any questions at all? Anybody,
motion to adjourn?
any questions about the forms that we got? I know, you jump forward with that, I know.
We were
But
here
on the
last
forms
night.
that were received, everybody's good to go with those, right?
So our next meeting is Tuesday, this coming Tuesday at 6:30. That will be the fire department and then Parks and Rec. And that'll be the end of it. And then your scoring is due November 1st.
Perfect.
So, can we have a motion to?
I thought I said that.
Second.
But
I didn't get seconded. No discussion, remember?
All right,
There's
Go,
second.
go.
run out the door.
all right, thank you.
It's the 17th.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty sure.
Oh, one of my Canadian friends.